I recently watched a movie called Thanksgiving, which I will say on the offset, I do not recommend watching. Please do read the disclaimer in the description as to why I did watch it, as well as why I don't recommend watching it. But anyway, considering I did watch it, there are a few lessons to take from it that I think are worth talking about. So if that's of interest to you, then stick around. This channel exists to help encourage you to continue to be a good person through lessons in general. So without further ado, let's get to part one, or I suppose the first lesson. I just can't talk. The first lesson from the movie Thanksgiving. Near the start of the film, we're kind of introduced to the main group of protagonists, I suppose. It is a group of high schoolers, and I suppose what would be seen as your standard high school bunch or group. You know, they're blasting their music and saying a bunch of profanity and just being all crazy, parking in the handicap spot, you know, all the usual stuff. But even as I say that, the usual stuff, it is kind of a shame that seems to be the standard. Of course, there are exceptions to it, but the lesson being, be the exception to that rule. If you are a high schooler or a young adult, don't think that because it's the standard, or because even some of your friends think it worthwhile to prioritize partying and being foolish, I suppose. Don't think that means you have to do it as well. The critique that my point of view would get is that, oh, I don't like fun, or you're not fun. That's simply not true. You can have fun without being foolish in the process. Now, to be clear, I you know, the example I pointed out, these kids, they like to, you know, some of the things I mentioned, they're listening to music loud, they're doing this, that, or the other. Not all those things in and of themselves are inherently foolish by any means, and I would never say so. But some things definitely are. They, as I mentioned, they parked in the handicap spot. You can't do that. As they went into the store in this movie, they were like taunting the people outside, cursing at them, calling them names and stuff, like saying, it's like, oh yeah, look, we get to be inside and get these, you know, Black Friday sales before you, or something like that. It's just very clearly some foolishness going on. Now, back to the critique people would have is that you just don't like fun. Yeah, once again, that is simply not true. There are many examples of things that are fun that don't inherently involve foolishness or actions at the expense of someone else. For example, just a few things I like to do. I like to play music. That's very fun to me. Making this video is fun, for the most part. Hanging out with friends and having good conversations, that's all fun to me. And again, I just want to be very clear. You have the right, like there are some people you would call, I guess, a party animal or something. It's like you like to have fun in a very traditionally exciting way, and that's fine. The point being is just set yourself apart by not crossing the line into it becoming foolishness with, you know, getting drunk or doing stuff that you know full well is not wise. So again, the main lesson here being to set yourself apart, even at a young age, by being exceptional in character, attitude, behavior, and the like. There are quite a few verses and quotes that pertain to this topic, so I'll go ahead and read them now. Proverbs 9:12 reads, "If you are wise, you are wise for yourself, and if you scoff, you alone will suffer from it." So I'm not saying it's like, oh, you're being foolish and it offends me, so then don't do it. It's like, no, for your sake. As I said, this is to help you to continue to be a good person and improve your character. If you're wise for yourself. It will benefit others, but it's going to help you too. Proverbs 15:20 says, "A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish man despises his mother." Just think before you're going to do something. If my parents knew what I'm about to do, or found out what I did, would they be proud of my decision? This is assuming you have good, wise parents. Romans 13, verse 13 through 14 says, "Let's behave properly as in the day, not in carousing, in drunkenness, not in sexual promiscuity or debauchery." I love that word, because it's just perfectly defines what I'm talking about here. "Not in strife and jealousy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh in regard to its lusts." Always think to yourself, are my actions more closely related to debauchery or to wisdom? I have here now a few quotes from a few different people. The first one being from Jordan Peterson. He says, like asking a question, you want to live a meaningful life? Everything you do matters. Everything. You think just because you're, with a couple friends doing stuff, no one's going to know, no one this, that, or the other. Oh, it's just myself doing this. It's not going to affect anyone. By no means is that true. Everything you do matters. This next quote is a bit of a longer one. It's from Jeff Brown, but it's very important. It says, it's been my experience that It's been my experience that the one that families label the crazy one is often the sane one. This is particularly true in dysfunctional families where ideas of healthy functioning are turned upside down. These families often repress their authentic expression and turn against any member who reminds them of their unresolved issues and patterns. As a result, the truth speakers, the ones who refuse to contain their feelings, those who challenge the toxic status quo, are often subjugated and vilified. Yeah, so I definitely read scapegoat, or I guess scapegoated as subjugated, but the principle remains that I can't read. No, I'm just kidding. But you understand the point. Those who challenge the toxic status quo are often subjugated and vilified, made to feel crazy by those who lack the courage and insight to move beyond the family's madness. If you have been labeled the crazy one, take heart. You are truly not alone. Most great creators and paradigm shifters were met with fiery resistance by those afraid to grow. Kind of reminds me of in Avengers Age of Ultron. It is quite interesting that many times, and I guess this is the case with anyone, it's like no one's going to be 100% right on everything, but oftentimes villains, they'll have a couple lines that are absolutely true. Ultron says, oh my gosh, now I don't want to butcher it, so I have to remember. Okay, well, I'm glad I looked the line up because I thought Ultron said something about you want to make the world a better place, but you don't want it to change, or you don't want to change, something like that. Turns out he said, you want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. How can you save something if you don't let it evolve, or something to that effect? But still, the point being, if there's a way to improve something, i.e. maturing, with this specific example for this video, maturing and becoming who you're supposed to be faster, certainly go for it. Another quote here from C.S. Lewis, it says, when the whole world is running toward cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. And actually, kind of a clarification in addition to that quote is a quote from Lecrae. Is a quote from Lecrae. He says, if you live for people's acceptance, you will die from their rejection. So, and I've said this in a previous video, if I remember correctly, do good and let the cards fall where they may. So back to the main idea, the fact that acting foolishly and rebelliously and quite honestly out of line, the fact that that's the standard should not be the case. But since it is, set yourself apart in that way. You will be viewed as crazy or as someone who's lost their mind, but that's worth it. Again, if you live for their acceptance, you're going to die from their rejection. It's not worth it. Another C.S. Lewis quote, it says, there is a kind of happiness and wonder that makes you serious. It is too good to waste on jokes. This is not to say, never make jokes, for I'll always acknowledge a cheerful heart is good medicine. This is to simply say that acknowledging the context of any given situation and acting appropriately is of the utmost importance. There are several more lessons I learned from this movie that I will be making videos on soon, so if you like this video, then do stay tuned for those videos, as well as the super video, which will include all of the lessons after I've made all the videos. And with that, remember to treat others the way that you want to be treated, to love God and love your neighbor, and therefore you will continue to be a good person. Thank you for watching. Apply this lesson to your life today, or wherever applicable. And as always, it's an honor.